listening to the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast, where we do fast, fun, free daily deep dives into books of the Bible. And right now, we're going through Esther.
When I was a kid, I watched that Ken Burns Civil War series on PBS with my family, and it was great. It's still great. I saw a little bit of that the other day. If you've never seen that thing, make the time, make it happen. It works for people of all ages. It's a great way to understand a massively formative event in the history of the West and the history of our country. I loved it. My only complaint about that series is that it made it impossible for me for the rest of my life to hear any dramatic reading of a letter from history ever without hearing that Ashokan farewell song being played on a violin in the background. It's always over letters that go like this. Hang on, I'm going to pull it up on my phone in a second. I got it. Here it is. September 3rd, 1863. Dearest Mother, in my previous letter, I had expressed some optimism I might be home to help you and Father with the harvest. But the progress is slow and the company is bogged down. I fear that is a promise I may not be able to keep. Yet my commitment to this great cause is unwavering. Please give my love to Johnny and the others, and know that I pray daily for you and Father. Sincerely yours, Josiah Q. Pennywessel, Private First Class, Army of the Potomac. Could you see how having that song in the back of your mind anytime you read a letter for the rest of your life would actually be a legitimate problem? Well, it is. And I hope that now it becomes your legitimate problem, because misery loves company, and I've got a historical letter to read to you today. And it's a letter from a gentleman named Tattenai, who is in charge of people building stuff in his province of Trans-Euphrates in the late 500s BC in the Persian Empire. And he got fussy that the proper paperwork might not be in order on the part of these Jewish people who were rebuilding a temple. And so he wrote back to the new King Darius as follows. Ezra chapter 4, verse 7, Jeffrey, cue the music. To King Darius, cordial greetings. The king should know that we went to the district of Judah, to the temple of the great God. The people there are building it with large stones and placing the timbers in the walls. The work is being carried on with diligence and is making rapid progress under their direction. But we questioned the elders and asked them, who authorized you to rebuild this temple and restore this structure? We also asked them their names so that we could write down the names of their leaders for your information. You can kill the music now, Jeff. I can't. It's impossible to focus it. This is the answer they gave us. Quote, we are the servants of the God of heaven and earth, and we are rebuilding the temple that was built many years ago, one that a great king of Israel built and finished. But because our fathers angered the God of heaven, he handed them over to Nebuchadnezzar the Chaldean, king of Babylon, who destroyed his temple and deported the people to Babylon. However, in the first year of Cyrus, king of Babylon, King Cyrus issued a decree to rebuild this house of God. He even removed from the temple of Babylon the gold and silver articles of the house of God, which Nebuchadnezzar had taken from the temple in Jerusalem and brought to the temple in Babylon. Then King Cyrus gave them to a man named Sheshbazzar, whom he appointed governor, and he told him, take these articles and go and deposit them in the temple in Jerusalem and rebuild the house of God on its site. So this Sheshbazzar came and laid the foundations of the house of God in Jerusalem. From that day to the present, it has been under construction, but it is not yet finished. Now we're back to Tattenai talking. That's the end of the quote that he's given Darius from the Jews. Tattenai says, now if it pleases the king, let a search be made in the royal archives of Babylon to see if King Cyrus did in fact issue a decree to rebuild this house of God in Jerusalem. Then let the king send us his decision in this matter. That's Ezra 5. Did I say 4 before? I was joking if I said Ezra 4. It's Ezra 5, 7 through the end of the chapter. And for the second straight time, I've kind of ribbed and made fun of Tattenai for being this detail guy who's getting after all of this stuff. But that letter is pretty level-headed, right? He sees a thing, he's not sure it's supposed to be happening, and so he goes and asks the people in charge, and they give a very clear answer that I mean, wow, you might wish these people were in charge of this podcast, because that was incredibly succinct. What do we have, like 31 episodes? And they just summed up the whole thing right there in like 3 paragraphs. And they left out a few interesting details, and they skipped the part about somebody getting eaten, which I thought was pretty interesting. But for the most part, yeah, that's more or less it. They got it. They nailed it. And Tetanai steelmans their quote. He doesn't roll their eyes at them or make fun of them. He just relays what they said. He's like, all right, Darius, you're in charge of these kinds of decisions. Please advise. And you can kind of tell that Tetanai gets the situation that Darius is in. He understands the pressures Darius is under. And if indeed this was Cyrus's thing, it kind of looks like Tetanai had been advised that, hey, anything that is carryover from the previous big important king of the Persians, I would want to know that, and I would want to rule in keeping with that. But I also wouldn't want to get manipulated by people just dropping Cyrus's name. So Tetanai is like, they said it was Cyrus, and it might be most advised in light of the tenuous nature of your early reign and my position here for you to go through the royal archives and see if these people are telling the truth. Because if it is, there's a win sitting here for you, and that you can demonstrate your connectedness with and your continuity of the policies of Cyrus, which, as we've discussed, was very, very important to Darius. So now here we are. The temple is half built under the leadership of Zerubbabel. It looks like Zerubbabel, maybe like Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, and Daniel. Maybe he had a Babylonian name as well, this Sheshbazzar. It sounds like we're talking about the same guy as Zerubbabel, side note. But coming out of Ezra chapter 5 in the letter of Tetanai to Darius, now we've got a new pinch point in history. The whole project, the whole thing about the Jews getting reestablished and all of God's promises being upheld, and even all of this is connected to the grand redemptive plan. All of this drama, all of these stakes, all of everything is about to come down to whether some administrative assistant 20 years earlier properly filed one out of about a bazillion decrees that King Cyrus the Great had issued, and whether or not new administrative assistants can go through those files, track with their old organizational system from a previous regime, and pull up this piece of paper, or inscription as it likely might have been, and discover that indeed the Jews were telling the truth. And that is the drama that is going to carry over into chapter 6 and that we're going to sort through next time around. Do I play the song one more time on the way out the door just to really drill it into your brain? Do I? I'm going to leave that up to Jeff. Oh! This is such a big deal. That song that they used in the Civil War documentary that I have always thought is some old Appalachian folk thing, it was written in like 1980 in New York. You know how I know that? It's because I Googled it just right before I got on the microphone. I would have assumed it was really, really old. I mean, props to whoever wrote that. It's super catchy. I like it. It makes me feel things in my heart. You know what else makes me feel things in my heart? Hanging out with you and talking about the Bible. All right, I'm Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. Let's do this again soon.